Hello, so I want to make a video about inequality, but not necessarily in the sense that in the sense of inequality, if that makes sense. It doesn't make sense, but okay. Because my sociology teacher said something today to the class, and it was some people deny the existence of inequality, and it just made me think a little bit. And it's like, how can you deny the existence of inequality? That's like saying you don't like something, therefore it doesn't exist, or for whatever reason, just stating an outright lie, because whether you like inequality or not, it does exist, undeniably. Okay, so for example, some people are smarter than other people. There's an inequality. Some people are taller than other people. There's another inequality. Some people have brown hair. Some people have blonde hair. There's another inequality. Some people wear glasses, some people don't wear glasses. There's another inequality. There is an endless amount of inequalities in the world that you can't just deny the existence of them. It's a cognitive statement to say that inequality doesn't exist, but it's a false statement. So it's like a false factual statement. You're making a factual claim about the world to say that inequality doesn't exist. But inequality does exist, so by you saying that inequality doesn't exist, it is false. It's like you can have an opinion about the inequality in the world. You can say, oh, well, inequality is bad or inequality is good. And that's up to you. But then you've also got to explore the ideas of, if you assume that inequality is bad, well, what's your solution? That's got to be good in order for it to be viable. It's not just that inequality exists, therefore any solution is good, because that's also not the case. Because if you look at communism's not a good solution to inequality. What does communism do? The whole aim of communism is to promote equality, is to share the means of production. But okay, well, what does that mean? That means to, does this mean to lift the poor up? Does it mean to bring the poor up to a livable standard? No, it doesn't. It means, well, this is what it has meant throughout history, that you push the rich down, so everyone's poor. It's like, oh, well, is that better? Everyone's equal, right? Everyone's got nothing, apart from the state who run the country and just well, I say run, but they're more like dictate it. Is that fair? Is that equality fair to you? Is that good? And I would say no. for multiple reasons, because if that inequality, okay, if everyone's equal, but equal on a level that no one is succeeding, then we don't have doctors. We don't have professionals who can do the things that we take for granted on a daily basis in the UK. For example, free healthcare. We wouldn't have that sort of healthcare system because we wouldn't have doctors to run it, because that would require that those doctors got a qualification in a university. And what makes you think there will be a university if everyone had to be equal? Because you can't just send everyone to university, because biological differences. Some people and interests. What makes you think everyone wants to go to the same university, or what makes you think that everyone wants to study the same thing? Because that's probably not the case, and I think that's definitely not the case. And I think communism ignores inequalities, and not even just communism, but like any sort of system which sees inequalities as a flaw. For example, you've got more females going into nursing. Okay, well, is that a result of inequality? Is it a result of oppression? Is it a result of inequality and oppression that more men tend to be builders, or is that also got something to do with biological differences and just the interests of men and women? Now, that's not to say that there are no male nurses, because there are, and that's not to say that there are no female builders, because there also are. There also is female builders. But it's not necessarily a result of oppression. It's just a result of individual choice, and there happens to be certain jobs that men like more than women. And yes, men and women are unequal. Women don't have penises. Men typically don't have boobs or vaginas. So if there's physical inequalities between men and women, which are visible, like women having wider hips so they can bear children, women having the ability to have a child from her own womb, then why would we assume that it stopped at the physical differences? Are there not also mental differences? Like, for example, the interests of men and women, determined by their biology, by the chemicals in their brain, by their nature. Like, I'd say women are typically more caring, and I think this has an evolutionary up to it, because women, well, throughout history, have been the caregiver of children. And is it a coincidence that across the world, all societies seem to follow this same norm, except the modern West, which things have completely started to change? Like, is it just a coincidence that happens? Is it the fact that women are being arbitrarily oppressed across the world because, I don't know, for some sort of reason, because I don't know, just because of a social construct of patriarchy? Or is it the fact that this actually has a purpose? That maybe women are better at raising children? Maybe women are more people orientated, and that's why they gravitate towards jobs which involve caring for people rather than doing jobs which don't involve that. Like building, for example, it's tools, things, objects, which men typically seem to be more interested in. I don't know exactly why that is, but I'd say it was something to do with the fact that a woman has to be people orientated, because she has to raise an infant. She has to, I think a woman's probably more attached to a child than a man, because she's grown it inside her for 9 months of her life. Okay, so she's had to go through a lot more pain and suffering in order to bear this child for 9 months than the man's had to do by just looking after the woman. Okay, perhaps if the man had to go through all that pain and suffering, then maybe he would have had a stronger connection to the child. And I'm not saying that men don't have a strong connection to the children, which perhaps is the case in some cases, but yeah, I'm just saying that I think that there are biological differences between men and women which determine their interests. And obviously, if this is the case, then this determines which career paths they're going to go down. And if this is the case, then that's going to explain the inequality in the world, and it's also going to explain the wage gap. Because you can't say, well, there's a 10% wage gap, and say this is just due to oppression, because it's clearly not. If you take into account all those different factors about men and women going into different lines of work, women being more people orientated, women wanting to have children and look after those children because of their biology and their maternal instincts. Maybe there's paternal instincts as well, but maybe those are more like to protect. I don't know. I don't want to speculate too much about that, but yeah, so I would also say typically men are more competitive, and this is probably due to higher levels of testosterone. And on top of the fact that they're not so people orientated, so they don't have children, they're probably more disagreeable than women, so they aren't afraid to, or they're willing to sacrifice their whole life and sacrifice spending time with their family so that they can make it to the top of these big corporations where they're working like 70-hour a week on like 100 grand a year. See, like most men are okay with doing that, but women, because of biological differences, are more interested in having a family. And that doesn't mean that women can't have a career. I'm just saying that it's hard to have an extremely successful career at the same time as having a child. It's like you can't have both. And we could argue, well, why doesn't the man stay at home and look after the child, and the woman go have a big career, And that's an option. There's nothing stopping people from doing that, except that's not the way that people sort themselves out. Unless we want to have some form of state intervention whereby we should make it illegal for men to go out to work and make it the case for women, then I don't know. Anyway, we're on a bit off topic there, but I'm going to end off that video because I can hear people coming downstairs and a bit awkward. Okay, thanks for watching.